Hey guys, Sarak here, and today I've got my budget Paleo-Frog deck to show you. And it's a really nice deck because the cards have been reprinted recently, most of them, and also you're getting pretty much the full deck rather than having to make lots of cuts or changes for more budget cards compared to the full, more competitive version. So, let's get into the deck profile. First off, we have 3 copies of Swap-Frog. Now, Swap-Frog is your main starter and playmaker in the main deck. It special summons itself by discarding water monsters and can give you extra monsters, extra normal summons for frogs in your hand, should you have extra ones. So it's really, really useful for that. And it just dumps your dupe frogs and your running totems into the graveyard so you can continually loop through them and make so many rank 2s and link plays. Then we have 3 copies of Dupe Frog, and it's got a nice reprint in the Ice Barrier structure deck. And this is mainly just one of the targets you're sending with Swap Frog. So you're sending this in Ronin Toad and you're banishing Dupe Frog to summon your Ronin Toaded back. You're making a Toad or a Link play or any other rank 2. Dupe Frog does have another effect that allows you to search a frog monster, but you won't really be using that a whole lot because it can miss timing. And then finally, we have 2 copies of Ronin Toadin. Important to note, this is only considered a frog card when it's on the field, so you can't search it in quite the same way. However, it's really, really useful because it's a non-hard once per turn, being able to special summon itself from the graveyard, so you can just keep bringing it back, and as long as you have another frog name in your graveyard, you always have a level 2 material on the field. So that's the full frog package that we're running in the main deck. So I've chosen to run 3 copies of Skullmeister to stop all those nasty graveyard effects that keep happening at the moment. This could be any hand trap you want, whatever you own. I've gone for Skullmeister at the moment. I'm aware Skullmeister might be a bit expensive. This could be Effect Failure or anything like that you could choose to use. So, onto the spells, we have 3 copies of Pot of Desires. So, because we literally just need to find a copy of Swap Frog, it's almost to get our plays going, and we can still win without them because we have so many traps that turn into monsters that we can then use. We can run Pot of Desires for the free draw 2. Next, we have 3 copies of Fury of Kairu Shin. This is a newish card from Rise of the Duelist last year, and this allows us to search Torrential Tribute and protect our water monsters from destruction. So we can use this to protect from our own Torrential Tributes, or just protect from things like Dragoon Pops and so on. So that's the spells, and now onto the traps. We have 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus. This allows us to banish any card on the field. Very, very useful effect. And then all the Paleozoics have the same effect, that once per chain, when a trap card is activated while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card as a normal monster. And it's no longer treated as a trap. So you use this for just continually recurring level 2 materials to make your Link and Xyz plays. They get banished when they leave the field, but that will not happen if you use them as Xyz material, because there's a strange ruling that they're sort of not considered on the field, but they're not considered to have left the field, if that makes sense. We then have 3 copies of Paleozoic Olenoides. Now this is our back row removal. Again, it has the same Paleozoic effect, but it targets one spell trap on the field and destroys it. Then we have 3 Paleozoic Canadia. This is a themed Book of Moon. Again, has the generic Paleozoic effect, and then targets one face-up monster your opponent controls and flips it face down. Very useful for slowing down plays because you can't Xyz or link with face-down monsters. And finally, for the Paleozoics, we have Paleozoic Morella. This is just there to get a Paleozoic in the grave if we need one. That will allow us then, obviously, to make more plays. Then, for generic traps, we have 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, return all their attack position monsters to the hand. I was torn between this or Quaking Mirror Force. You can really run either. I just chose to go with Storming Mirror Force at the moment, but Quaking is also absolutely fine. But they're just the 2 best battle traps to have at the moment. Then we have 3 copies of Torrential Tribute because they're searchable. It's really, really good, strong disruption, and we can protect our own monsters. Our paleo traps come back. We have so much extra fodder for linking and Xyz materials. Then we have 3 copies of Solemn Strike for negating summons and monster effects. Again, very, very useful card. Now, another card I'm trying are 3 copies of Angel Statue Azaroon. This is a new card released in Blazing Vortex, and it allows itself to become an 1800 body. It's still treated as an effect monster, unlike the Paleos, which are treated as normal monsters, so that is important for some plays. And it allows you to negate summons, or crash into a monster and destroy that monster. If it's destroyed by battle, you can destroy the monster that destroyed this card. So I thought this was a nice card from the new set that could go very easily into this strategy. And then finally, because we run 2 different spells, we're activating them both on our turn. 1 copy of Imperial Order. So that's the main deck. And now onto the extra deck we start with, of course, 3 copies of Totally Awesome. Love him or hate him, he's the star of this deck. He searches your frogs from your deck, and he's a Omni Negate and steals the card he negates. He's so strong, we can make 2 most turns, and it can just be very, very difficult for your opponent to get through a toad, maybe multiple toads, a couple of back row, maybe an Imperial Order. It's just very, very difficult for your opponent to play through all of that disruption. And if he's sent to the graveyard, he can target 1 more water in the graveyard, add it to your hand, so he can recycle himself when you link him off. Or you can get back your other frogs and so on. Then we have 2 copies of Paleozoic Upabinya. Now, this allows your paleo cards to dodge back row removal and just lets you activate them from your hand, which is really, really strong because it allows you to bluff much more easily, and so on. It also searches the paleo traps, so you can get the one you need during your turn. And it's unaffected by monster effects, which is also very, very nice. So it can be quite difficult to just out. They have to spend spell trap removal or go into battle, and then they walk into all your traps. Then we have 1 Paleozoic Anomalocaris, which is a great fun word to say. We're only running 1 of this because it requires 3 level 2 monsters. It's also unaffected by monster effects, and then if a trap card goes from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can activate the top card of your deck, and if it's a trap card, add it to your hand, otherwise send it to your graveyard. And then if it has a trap card as material during either player's turn, you can detach 1 material, target 1 card, and destroy it. So again, very, very useful spot destruction and ability to find trap cards out of your deck, but we're not making this as nearly as much as we are Upabinya because it requires 3 level 2s. So then we have 1 copy of Cat Shark. This can't be destroyed by battle because all our monsters are water. And then we can target any rank 4 or lower monster and double its attack and defense until the end of the turn. And that can be done during either player's turn, so it messes up combat maths, and during your turn, so it can really help in pushing for OTKs and so on. Then we have one number 45, Grumble Logos of Demolition, sorry. This allows you to negate a effect on the field and prevents other effects with the same name as that target from activating. And this can negate spells, traps, and monsters, so it's really, really strong in that regard. Then we have one Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin, again allowing you to negate monster effects and change attacks to 0. Very, very strong in conjunction with things like Cat Shark, where you can suddenly, out of nowhere, push through, say, 4,400 damage with a Toad and a Cat Shark. Then for the Link monsters, we have one Marincess Coral Anemone, Anemone, if I can, again, I'm not doing well with the speaking today. So this allows you to just special summon any water monster with 1,500 attack or less from the graveyard. Then it will lock you into water monsters for the rest of the turn, which is fine. Most of our extra deck that we're making on early turns is water. This card is incredibly strong for the deck because cards like Swap Frog are not once per turn. This card's got a bit more expensive recently, which is unfortunate, but it's a very, very good extender for the deck and important to have a copy of. Then we have one Area the Water Charmer Gentle. This allows us to pinch a Hulk from our opponent's graveyard, which is very, very strong. That's the main use this will have. Pinching a water monster, so a hand trap or a Hulk Fibrax or similar from our opponent's graveyard. But also if it's destroyed by a card effect, then you can search a water monster from your deck. We have one Starboy, which is there for enabling OTKs, giving all our monsters essentially plus 500 attack and defense is incredibly useful. And also, again, helps us recycle our water monsters from our graveyard. One Nightmare Unicorn as another way of getting spot removal. Then finally, for our endgame cards, we have one copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. We have lots of extra deck monsters that may not have materials anymore, so we can use them to make an Avramax, which is just a very, very difficult monster to out for certain decks. And then our other option we have is Boral Sword Dragon. Now, it's important to remember Boral Sword requires effect monsters, so you cannot use Paleo traps on their own to make Boral Sword. Ideally, in this deck, we would have a copy of Link Spider, but Link Spider is getting increasingly hard to find at the moment, which is why I don't have one. But this is in here to push for damage in later turns. So, that's Paleo-Frog. As I said, the deck is very nearly the full-powered version, which is fantastic. Things that you can add to improve it are obviously cards like Infinite Impermanence, which isn't the best card at the moment, but may come back. Similarly, Zeus is really, really good in this deck because you're making so many Xyz monsters, and along that with a copy of Downerd Magician as a way of giving you an extra material on top of your Zeus to get another activation. And then a copy of Link Spider just allows you to convert any Paleo into an effect monster, which will allow you to make cards like Boral Sword much easier. So that's Paleo-Frog. Hope you enjoyed the profile, and I will see you again soon.